Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. And this is a special called meeting by two of our commissioners, Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Tyner, and Madam Clerk, or Mr. Hewitt, or Madam Attorney. The chair does not have an agenda, so what am I to do?
First is public comments.
All right, first thing we'll do this morning is public comments. And are we limited to public comments about the specific purpose of the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Did everybody understand that? If you cannot hear, if you raise your hand, we'll make sure we speak louder. And remind the commissioners, though some of us are not in our regular chairs, to be sure to speak into the mic, because it is going to be recorded. And those of you that may choose to speak, I guess, Madam Clerk, you want them to come to the microphone at the podium and speak into the microphone so you may be recorded as well. So,
And you still want to keep to the 3-minute time limit that you guys always have?
that's the standard policy, right?
Correct.
Any thoughts on that? Otherwise, if you want to be recognized to speak, if you raise your hand, yes, sir, come give us your name and where you are from or whatever, and
What's the purpose of the meeting? Can that be declared?
Consider action that may be necessary due to the coronavirus threat.
as advertised.
Hey, my name's Robbie Cohen. My residence at 152 Marlin, and I'm currently building a new house at 156 Marlin. I do not reside here permanently. I am a general contractor by trade. That's what I do for a living, so I'm contracting this house with local and subs from home. It's my understanding y'all are considering closing the island to such work, which would be terrible for me. I mean, my house is not completely in the dry. And nobody in this room knows how long this is gonna last. And we are able to keep our social distance. Our vendors have got methods set up to where we either call in the material order and they deliver it, or they set it out front on a cart. I've got 4 framers there right now, that all 4 framers' wives have been laid off. They didn't work last week. And now you're talking about where they can't work this week. It's just, look, I want everybody in here to be healthy and everybody in the country to be healthy. And I realize y'all are thinking for the best interest of everyone. However, luckily in the trade that I'm in, we are able to keep our social distance. I don't like being in this room. I don't care about 6 feet. We're recirculating the same air. I don't like it. But we're out in the field where we got a nice breeze and all that, you know, we're fine for the information that we have been given. Nobody knows all the information. I am a councilman in the town where I'm from, so I realize what y'all are faced with. I'm getting these same emails, but I think that's all I have. I'm sure I'll think of something after I hear some more, but I'll keep my mouth shut.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Jordan. I live at 124 Sand Dollar. I work at 131 Ocean Boulevard West and general counsel for the Coastal Companies. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss what action can or should be taken. And I'm sure you all have heard this often, but the off quote is, "The only thing to fear is fear itself." We're a huge country. Every location is different, and the actions that need to be taken should be different for every location and locale. If you're going to consider taking any action, I would hope that it's not be out of panic, it's not out of fear, and it shouldn't be premature. Holden Beach economy is based upon real estate and tourism. When you have rentals, you're talking about not just a management company who will get a small percentage. You're talking about cleaners. You're talking about landscaping. You're talking about the hourly people that book. So if you shut down rentals, then you're talking about shutting down an entire economy. Houses are purchased often oftentimes based on rental income. So if you're gonna talk about shutting down rentals, you're talking about also shutting down sales of real estate. Holden Beach town government is based upon occupancy taxes, okay? And real estate sales. What is that going to do to the long-term economy? And once the revenue is lost in rentals, it is lost forever. It's not something that we can increase production later and make it up. It is lost forever. Important to know, in our business right now, rentals are down. We're not seeing some huge influx of people all of a sudden trying to get out of here and come in here. Rentals are down. They've been cut in half. Do not act out of fear. There are many alternatives available if you want to deal with the virus. Public spaces, okay? I do see people over there playing basketball over the weekend. That might not be the best thing to do. Do we shut down the basketball court? Do we shut down public parking so that you don't have necessarily the general public congregating? Do we close mass public events? Those are things we can do that are reasonable and that are alternatives, and in fact, other beaches have done, including Topsail Island, Emerald Isle. They haven't shut down their beaches. They haven't shut down their rentals. They have taken considered, reasonable steps now. If you go too far now, then what do? How do you turn it back? Which one of you will, down the road, be the one to say, it's safe now? We can open up the beaches. We can open up the rentals. You can't go backwards once you've taken a step. So I ask, let's take reasonable steps now. Do not shut down the beaches. Do not shut down the rentals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Last call. All right, now, Madam Clerk, what's the next item on the agenda?
The next item is, sorry, I didn't print mine either. Consider action that may be necessary due to the coronavirus threat.
Okay, I would turn to those that call for the meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite honestly, Mike and I had a conversation, we've had conversations with you also. We felt like waiting till 4 o'clock this afternoon to begin thinking about what we're going to do was unreasonable. We felt like we needed to start sooner than later, and considering the options, the impact of those options, and what is the logical decisions we need to make. So, appreciate your leadership. We just felt like waiting to 4 o'clock this afternoon was losing a lot of valuable time where we could start the discussions now. We may decide, as you've pointed out, the governor's got a conference call at 11 o'clock. We can wait it out.
Excuse me, no, I'm sorry to interrupt. The governor's conference call is at 2:30 for municipal leaders. The 11 o'clock conference call is with Brunswick County Emergency Management. We just got the advisory from the governor here. Governor's on at 2:30.
We can wait to 4 o'clock to make our final decisions if that's what we decide to do, but we felt like waiting to 4 o'clock to even begin these conversations was losing valuable time. As you've seen all the emails that we've gotten, our inboxes have blown up. I know we've gotten over 100 emails plus, whether it's to us personally or to the town. 99% of the emails, people are asking us to stop short-term rentals, limit the beach to property owners only for at least 2 weeks. I wanted to call the meeting today. I'll let Mr. Sullivan express his concerns. I wanted to go ahead and call the meeting today so that the Board of Commissioners could discuss what we thought was the best thing to do and help provide you some direction as the emergency management officer. Mike?
Well, I guess I echo Woody as far as the calling of the meeting. It seemed to me that if this is an emergency, and I don't think anybody doubts that it is, that it made no sense to wait until the end of the business day before we met to discuss it, to make a decision. If we do make a decision, whatever is implemented here, we want to give people a reasonable amount of time within which to comply with whatever the order is. So it would be better to make those decisions earlier in the day than at the end of, close of business day. As everyone else here, I've gotten a ton of emails, and you can tell, you don't have to look at the person's address, and the person doesn't have to tell you where they reside when you read the email. If you live on the beach, there are a few exceptions to this in all the locales. The people who live on the beach, vast majority say close the whole beach down. The people who live in the mainland say that's ridiculous, leave the beach open, everything's fine. And the people who live and own property are appalled at the idea that we may close down the bridge and not let people on. A lot of the people have lost sight of the reason. Nobody is saying that somebody is less hygienic or carries some kind of rare disease that's a stigma. What happens is, where more people live, the larger the population, the greater the chance that they'll be exposed to the virus. They could be contaminated and not know it. They could be asymptomatic, and then they'll come here and spread the virus. So the concern is to do what we can to limit the spread of the virus by taking what are, we believe, the most reasonable but safe steps that we can to ensure that. So we wanted to have this discussion. And so I would ask the same thing. The mayor has scheduled a meeting for 4 o'clock, and Woody and I scheduled this one because we thought we wanted to get this over with earlier rather than later. So I would ask the mayor if he still intends to have the meeting at 4 o'clock. And I would also ask the mayor, since he is the emergency manager director, if he is asking us to sit here and have this discussion today, if he intends to implement what the majority of the board thinks would be the right policy, or if he's going to maintain the ability to make the decision on his own as the emergency director.
The answer to the first question is yes, we're going to have the 4 o'clock meeting, hoping that you and others will attend. The second answer is, as we gather more information through the day, we'll make that decision this afternoon.
Can you be more specific of the decision? What y'all think the limit? 'Cause I've heard short-term goals.
Point of order is the audience, I'll answer your question, but I've done a poor job in communicating. The questions and comment period is over, but I'll go ahead and answer the question because it's an extreme, different kind of thing. Don't know what is gonna be involved yet. Don't know what the governor may say or do today, or what the local authorities are gonna say or do today, and we'll take all that into consideration. I don't know what else to say.
That's fair enough.
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So that leads me to the third question.
All right?
With your experience and as the emergency management director, today with what we know, at this moment, what would be your what are your recommendations? What are your thoughts on what we should do on the beach?
As of right now,
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable in saying what I do right this minute. I would tell you what I'm planning to do, and that is to gather information and make a decision later today. I feel like a doctor going into the operating room looking for, discovering what's wrong with my patient, We've got to cut the patient open and look at all the information and come up with an answer. But right now, I am a little concerned with the statement that 99% of the people want the rentals banned. That means if you've got only 100 emails, there's only one person in the whole stack that is in favor of not closing the rentals. That's what I heard. If you got 100,
I didn't say
Isn't that
that.
what you said?
That's what I said.
And that means only one person
I
in
haven't,
there's,
okay, I've had one email where somebody said, don't do it, and I've had one call. That's it.
so 2 people out of
Okay.
100.
98. What's
Okay.
the point?
My point is, I just wanna make sure I had the numbers correctly understood. So,
I'm sorry, I said mine to you, sorry.
the resolution and decision will be made later today. I hate to speculate, cause I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, as you just saw a few minutes ago, my office delivered me another stack of emails that I've gotten. And, if I start reading now, it'll take till the middle of the afternoon for me to read all my emails, you know?
I understand that, and I've read all the emails I got. But as I said, the emails, the position of the person writing the email depends on where they're from. And so that doesn't really, it gives you a flavor and you can understand people's thoughts and emotions. But we have a lot of data here. Then I don't think we're gonna get that much new data. So we know that the virus is either growing very rapidly or it's not growing rapidly. We know that there were people dying and a number of people dying. We know the number of people who are catching the virus. So, I mean, we're all in the same boat here. We all have a certain amount of information with which we can rely upon, and we're gonna try to make a decision. And I don't know how much more information I'm gonna get, other than if the county or the governor declare a state of emergency and set parameters on the island. But I don't know if I wanna wait for that, because they haven't done what they should have done yet. And I think it's up to us to make a decision. And if they make a ruling that would override what we decided, then we have to live with that. But I don't think I want to depend upon them to make a decision that I'm fully ready to make, and I think I should make. That's my responsibility.
All right,
I have something I'd like to add.
okay, bear with me just a minute. I'm not disagreeing with anything either one of you is saying or position or whatever. We're all on the same team and we're not gonna get into, whatever. But the information that I don't have is information that I will never have, and that be all the answers. Some of the answers that need to be brought forth before a good educated decision can be made is some of the things like, how are we gonna enforce it? I think we need to hear from the police chief. I think we need to hear from the town attorney. Whenever you consider banning certain activities and certain people, for example, my company, I have 35 homes, not residential homes, currently, and here's my list, 35 homes that are occupied, that are rental houses, as we speak. I think it would be nice to know exactly, potentially, maybe the lady that's representing Coastal, and we don't have a Hobbs or a Holden Beach Vacation or a Proactive or other companies. I think we need to identify how many people possibly we're having on the island now, and potentially what we're gonna have. How we're gonna notify, and how we're gonna get them out. How, is the town holding me responsible as an agent, or Coastal, or Hobbs, or whoever? Who is gonna be in violation? Is it the agent for not getting the people out, or are you gonna go down there with a gun and tell people to get off the island? If they don't get off the island, what are you gonna do with them? The sheriff's turning people out at the courthouse jail up there. And as one irate citizen chewed me out 7:30 Saturday morning on my cell phone, I said, what do you want me to do with these people? And his answer was, take them home. I said, what if they're from New York or Tennessee? He said, take them home. I said, you want us to take somebody to New York City? He said, well, they can't get on an airplane. I mean, that's the kind of thinking that we're trying to resolve and try to keep people from getting angry and upset and out of control. There's just so many answers to be found out there. What are our neighbors doing? Well, there's a lot of false information that so many of our property owners, residents and non-residents, are saying, well, all the beaches in North Carolina are closed down except Sunset, Ocean Island, Holden. Why aren't you doing what the others? Well, that's not the status of all the others. So we've got to sort through what's real information and what's rumor. Maybe you guys, or maybe somebody in the room have the answers to all that. I haven't got all those answers yet. But just as this gentleman spoke about the jobs on the beach, are we going, what are we, as one homeowner said to me, what's the difference between my renters coming to my house and the house next door that's under construction and having people from other countries working on that job site, the delivery trucks coming from all these other places, delivering materials? What's the difference between those people and my people? What am I supposed to tell that man? I don't know. But we could go on and on and on, which I'm not going to do. But I'm just trying to express to you, maybe all of you have heard all these stories. That's just a minute part of the things that I'm hearing. And also, I'm communicating with our neighboring mayors, trying to keep up with what they're doing so that they can share information. We all are wanting to do the same thing, not just our commission, but the other towns near us as well. We also have towns like Southport, St. James. Look at what they're doing, and they're uniquely different from us. But why is it just the coast? Why is it not the mountains? They have lakes and destinations and all, and not one thing in the news about them. Is it politics, some of it? No. But the reality is the pressure's really on us coastal people, you know, to come up and decide what we're gonna do. And I hope that by us being friends and team members here, including the audience members, trying to seek a proper answer in a timely fashion, that we can come up with some good results. And we are gonna do something today. And you guys, I look at you equally as important as anybody in the room, so, Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Hewitt.
But Mike mentioned information available, and I just stick to operational considerations. And we've seen Commissioner Kwiatkowski has actually provided a draft or her thoughts. She's not here, by the way, if everybody notes. Has anybody called her? Okay. Okay, thank you. And all of you have had the forwarded emails that attempt to formulate options that are available. I think that the first thing that the commissioners need to realize before you can do anything that is mentioned here, there has to be a state of emergency declared. Okay, that has to happen. That is the prime directive here, and that establishes the framework on how directions are carried out. That said, that's the emergency management director, and I'm paraphrasing the ordinance that reads, in consultation with the Board of Commissioners, shall make proclamations that have the force of ordinance, et cetera, et cetera. What I'd like to attempt to illuminate as far as information for the commissioners is the capacities and capabilities that your government services have. I know there are, the number one thing involves close the bridge, not close the bridge, who comes, who goes, how do you regulate that kind of thing. And also town facilities, access to the beach, that's a common theme in there. You know, how long is this gonna happen or take place? But I do think that y'all need to be cognizant of the other particular thing is we're pretty good with hurricane operations and our emergency plan. That plan is off the table here, y'all. It is irrelevant in these circumstances. This is unheard of. It is not addressed. We are flying by the seat of our pants as far as how we go about making service delivery options and what you put into play here. But I think that there are a couple of themes in this whole issue that concerns the town, how it provides services, how it's going to operate, in addition to the state of emergency having to be declared before you can do anything, and that is town facilities, securing town facilities or prohibiting access to public spaces, and also the control of access to the beach. Now, whether that is the beach in general or the beach in the island, it's got a couple of variants there. But specific to that, I think that there is a common misperception that all we got to do is put a cop at the foot of the bridge and we can control access there. That's not going to work. That is not going to work because of the sheer logistics of the matter. That works during a hurricane when there's nobody on the island. It does not, the scenario does not work when the island is occupied. And the chief can go through that in minutia as you may see fit. Once a state of emergency is declared, or I'm assuming that there will be, that has other implications for the provision of the rest of our services, is that we pretty much are limited in how the staffs will interact with the public, and we'll probably have to drastically modify how we interface with the public to be sure that we'll just have to close the windows, front windows here at a minimum of town hall and go to some type of postal digital drop box interface. But with that as a preamble, I did want to share that with you. And I know that there's probably legal aspects of that I have not had time or occasion to discuss with our town attorney, but those are just a few of the operational issues that I wanted to illuminate for you.
Chief, would you like to address us and share any thoughts that you may have?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts. Get ready to, Mike, slide this way. So I guess my biggest concern, I've seen the list and a couple of ideas. My biggest concern is with the bridge closure. During hurricanes, it's a logistical nightmare. During this, just as the town manager said, this is not a hurricane. It's impossible, to be honest with you. I've run the numbers in my head, and I just cannot figure out how to make it work. During a hurricane, we have an 8-officer department. We're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every person is on staff. We eat here, we sleep here, we work here. Nobody goes home. That's how it works. With our situation right now, we're down 2 officers, 1 on light duty, and we've still got a vacancy that we're working on filling. So our department at full staff right now, full capacity is 6 officers. The way we work the bridge is we work our patrol shifts in 12-hour shifts, but to work the bridge takes 2 officers and you work 8-hour shifts. To ask somebody to stand on that pavement, not mobile, for 8 hours is more than anybody. We can't do it for 12 hours like you can on a patrol. Patrol and a stationary shift on a bridge is 2 completely different things. So you got 2 officers for 8-hour shifts. You got to cover 3 of those a day. So 3 times 2 is 6 officers. So you got 6 officers right there that just to cover the bridge. That's no patrols, not covering anything else here. That's not sending them home. That's having them sleep, eat, do everything here just to try to cover shifts, kind of like a hurricane situation. That's one thing for 5 days during a hurricane. Just as somebody made a comment, we don't know if this is going to be 30 days. We don't know if this is going to be 60 days. It's just realistically, and again, that doesn't cover any patrols, doesn't help us answer any calls. This is just for ingress and egress, and that's without them having a day off. If you ever wanna give them a day off, you're gonna have more officers to cover those shifts. So realistically, if you work 2 days on, 2 days off, which is kind of our rotation now, you're looking at 6 days for this rotation, or 6 officers for this rotation and 6 for this one. So I need 12 officers just to cover the bridge. And I still need the 6 to 8 I've got just to cover calls and keep up with the regular shift work. I want us to try to work together, and I agree we need to come to something, but I will tell you, the closing the ingress and egress of the bridge is, I've run the numbers, I just can't figure out how to make it happen.
Chief, the most common statement in regards to that I have been receiving is, well, why can't the county sheriff provide us with all the help we need?
And that's a good question too. The sheriff's department, obviously, they've got their own jurisdiction. We worry about 7 miles here, and I don't even know how many square miles the county is, but I think we're the 3rd or 4th largest in the state. And he's got a population of 120-some thousand in this county now, I believe. So he's got more than his hands full keeping his deputies, doing that. They've had to bring extra staff into the jail to do with that. Just as the mayor made a comment, the jails are sending people out that are not in there for serious violation, major felonies and stuff, because they're trying to keep the situation out of their jail. The sheriff's got his hands full, and I know he will support us in ways that he can, but Holden Beach is not his #1 priority. And I'm not speaking ill of him, but he's not gonna make Holden Beach a priority for him. This is gonna be our situation to deal with.
So, I understand the logistical problems. And this is early in the virus, in the threat in Brunswick County. So are you telling us that if it comes to a point where Brunswick County is like New York or Washington, that we'll never have the option to close the bridge? If we decide that this is really a threat, that it's necessary, will everybody in the room decides, agrees that it would be,
Not
it would?
picking on you,
No,
Jeremy,
no,
but
you're not
No,
picking-
I'm asking.
Honestly,
right now what I've got is I'm gonna go back and email all 100 people that I've got their emails and say, our town manager and our police chief says, can't do it.
Right.
That's what I've heard so far.
And
So,
I understand.
so
My-
are there
Let-
options that we can look at?
My option is gonna be, honestly, the National Guard has gotten activated in several states, and I think it's gonna take the governor activating the National Guard down here before we get that kind of assistance. And maybe I'm extreme, maybe I'm wrong, but until we hire 3 times the officers that we have now, which is gonna take, it would take me 6 or 8 months just to go through backgrounds and everything else to hire that many officers. But anyway, realistically, I think it would take the National Guard getting activated down here before that happens.
So if the National Guard doesn't get activated, we wanna do something, what's your options?
I think there's options for closures, but the bridge closure is not gonna be one of them. If you wanna limit some of the parking accesses, public spacing, closing town buildings, all of that, I think is feasible. I can help with that. Of course, a lot of the town managers gonna have to deal with that stuff, but those are things logistically that we can do. But as far as standing there closing the bridge and trying to the other option for closing the bridge, which nobody's gonna like this answer, is literally you put a backhoe or something across it and literally close it down. Because my next question would be, if you're allowing people to come and go, then they're bringing the potential for the virus anyway. Whether they're homeowners or not, if you
Yeah,
block it to say only homeowners, but you're letting them leave, when they return, they have the potential to bring it back anyway.
Well, and I think we all understand that. I
Right.
mean, what we're trying to do is, as the Dr. Fauci's talking about, is we're trying to flatten the curve a little bit.
Correct.
You're not gonna prevent that virus from coming over
You're
here.
absolutely not. I agree.
But if we can bring some of the volume down of people that are here, hopefully that will flatten the curve a
Right,
little bit.
and I understand that, and I think, again, I don't have the answers, I wish I did, good gracious.
Look, I don't have the answers either. All I know is we're elected to represent the public,
For sure.
and the public is saying loud and clear, at least the ones that have spoke up. They wanna do something.
I agree. Something needs to be done, excuse me, but I don't know what the answer is. Not, like I said, I think there's some parking accesses, there's things that we can patrol and monitor and keep at bay.
Yep.
But again, if you put us on a rotation on the bridge, then that's all you'll have. There
thank you. That's
Yeah.
good information. I'd rather know what my options are than just be told, can't do it.
Right.
Thank you.
This is difficult for me, but can I because I can't see what's going on, but if I can interject a bit, because Jeremy, I took into account exactly what you were saying, the difficulties on closing the bridge at this point. And everything that I tried to put together in my thoughts was based on what other parts of the country or islands are doing without closing a bridge, but by stopping rentals and policing meaning watching what is going on the ocean strand, which some states have actually said the strand is open for exercise, walking dogs, but not for congregation. Doing things like you were saying, closing parking, to reduce the number of visitors that can come. All of the things that I have in my thought starter that I sent had to do with what I found other people were doing and trying to take into account our limited resources, to make it as feasible as possible to do something meaningful to reduce people's exposure, but people still are going to have to take responsibility themselves for isolating as much as possible. Please don't come here if you are sick. Please don't turn your house into a big party house with multiple households coming with you that you don't know where they've been. I don't want to stop everything. I want our construction people and our services people to still be able to operate on the properties that they are contracted for, where they can keep themselves on that site, and there's no reason residents are going to get exposed because they don't need to go to somebody else's site where there's work going on. So everything I put in my thought starter message was about what other people do, what is making sense to reduce exposure, but we can't eliminate exposure, and we can't close our island totally and say, when you are here, you must be here, because we don't have food and we don't have medicine on our island. We are not the Outer Banks. We are not the Crystal Coast, where there are a lot of food and drugstore facilities if you did get blocked in. So it's never going to be an option for us to shut down and you're there and you can't leave. It's just minimizing exposure and again reinforcing to everybody what responsible behavior is and keeping going what we can for our Brunswick County community to keep people working that can work safely. I'm encouraging that we think through the options of what we can do, stopping rentals but not shutting the island at the bridge. And can we then reduce unhealthy behavior and reduce exposure by some of the things that I have put in my thought starter?
Any other commissioner want to comment at this point? Otherwise, I'm going to ask the town attorney to speak to us.
Well, I'd like to go before the town attorney
Alright.
speaks. I want to follow up. Once you declare a state of emergency, then you are making it recognized and official that this is a threat to public health. And that has implications for the workforce that the town has out in the field. You are going to have to understand that facilities and services will have to be truncated. I'd like to ask Mr. Evans what that means for the inspections department.
Ain't gonna happen. We have a directive that came down from Cliff Island, down out of the Department of Insurance, that gave us direction on what to do, but in a state of emergency, it's going to shut down inspections if you declare a state of emergency. As far as inspections goes and inspection personnel, I think we, as employees, or in my department, with that particular offense, we decide that the island is somehow unsafe for other people to come on and off, as if they deserve a better level of security than the employees and the staff. Because last week, I had contact with over 250 going anywhere from 16 to 17 sites a day. So if you're going to say that it's that big a hazard, I hope that you're not gonna say it's not a hazard to the employees either when we're out there interacting with the public and we've got services opening. Because I would come through my door out there and there'd be 5 or 6 people in there waiting on us, because the services are open too. But I take particular offense to the fact that you say bringing people on the beach and letting people go off the beach, you know what I mean, is somehow hazardous to the people that are staying here, when the employees are the ones that are interacting with the public and the different people. So I think that, based on Cliff Isaac's, letter, which was kind of vague, but but as you understand, building officials answer to them on the way they do things and the decisions they make. The administrative part's left up to the town, but for the most part, they're the ones who's going to decide if what we did was ethical or unethical, or if they're the ones that give us our certifications to take them back. But I will tell you, particularly right now, that I know of no contract inspectors in the state right now who are in charge of themselves, particularly the one that we use, who is not refusing to do inspections because I was in 15 homes last week. So you've got to make a decision, I think, as to what you think that threat level is, and if it is, if it's gonna shut that down. I can go to Robbie's job and not get nowhere near anybody, right? But I can't stop them from getting near me. I can go into a house and ask that the people not be there if that's what you want to do, and we'll have the same situation. I don't know if y'all got the emails last week from the one guy that lost his mind when I told him I didn't feel comfortable going in there, because he had a house full of people. He looked sick, and he admitted he came from Mecklenburg County so he could have his quarantine here at the beach. So I think you need to figure out what that is. And from my perspective, I take particular offense if you think that it's better, that it's more important that the citizens be fully 100% protected, but the employees need to continue to intermingle unless that threat level has reached a point where we don't need to be doing it. Because you're not protecting nobody at that. If I'm gonna go to every job site in every house, you know what I mean, all week long, I'm going back and forth to Ash. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that, I think that you're either all in or you're all out. You can't stop people from coming in off the beach. You're gonna have a heck of a time. If you can't stop people from coming across that beach, you're not gonna be able to stop people from trying to do work. You know what I mean? And then we have another situation as far as that goes. I'm just saying, what decision you make is one way or the other, but I'm telling you what my particular situation is and what our situation is over there. What our situation, I was actually supposed to be off today, but Robbie wanted an inspection, and he's gonna get it tomorrow. You know what I mean? He's probably gonna get it today because I'm here, because that's the kind of person I am. But when I go out there, like when I went out there the other day, there were 7 people on that job. When I went into a house the other day, there was about 8 people in a house that I went to do an inspection on the other day. I had one person call me and tell me they were sick, and they would lock themselves in the back bedroom. I said, no, not doing that one. So,
Look,
yeah.
Tim,
I got my point across.
we understand your concerns. And once again, as I think the mayor said earlier, this is unprecedented.
Oh, yeah.
We're flying by the seat of our pants. There are no rule books. And I think we all are trying to make what are the best decisions for the public. And it ain't gonna be a right or wrong answer here. I mean, I've told somebody today, I stand 100% chance of pissing off 50% of the people here.
Right.
You know?
David asked me if you.
I mean, we're trying to do the best we can for the public. And once again, a majority of the public is asking us to take action now.
Well, I mean,
And-
I've got emails too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I know.
So, I mean, I hear you, I appreciate your point of view, but at the end of the day, we gotta come up with some options to do something. At least that's my opinion. Mr. Brown, you got any comments?
It gets back that 50% rule. I could care less about that. Cause what I'm looking at, the vast majority of the people that live over here are in that age group that should that virus come here, okay, and start making, it's gonna be really hard on the vast majority of our citizens. You know, they tell us now that folks over there, you know, like in Italy, I was reading a report last night, and the doctors basically said, if you're 60 years old, you can forget it. You understand? And you can shake Elaine all you want, but what I am saying to you, and I want you to take this to your boss, that when you go and discount rents, that didn't go well for the town of Holden Beach. I want you to let him know that, and let him know that I said that, okay? But I think we're in uncharted waters, okay? I'm in construction just like you, just like Murdoch. You understand? Come 4 o'clock this afternoon and an emergency's declared, then you're gonna figure out something to do with that damn bridge. Okay? All of a sudden where you can't do something, you're gonna figure out how to do it. Or you're gonna be packing pavement. Okay? I mean, it's just gonna be that simple. If he declares an emergency, you're gonna have to get out there and man that bridge. Okay? That's the way it's gonna be. You know, we're hearing all the reasons not to make any action. I'm looking at my neighbors here, okay? I had a trauma surgeon and a doctor that are my neighbors. And they said, if you can't do anything else, you cut the short-term rental out, okay? It's not to beat up on the real estate company or anything else, okay? But get the crowds down, okay? So you're saying, well, we got social distancing and all this going on. Hey, you keep bringing them in, it's gonna be just like it was in Florida. Oh, we're gonna be fine. You see how many are sick now? It's gonna be by the thousands. And that's what we're trying to avoid. 2 weeks will not kill any construction job over here. But if you shut that bridge down, you're gonna have to close it down to everybody. Now, if you want to take a vote on it, I'll vote today to shut it down, okay? Because I'm listening to my neighbors, okay? I'm not listening to them, I'm listening to my neighbors. That's who elected me to this position. If I can't listen to them, there's something wrong with me. Bottom line, 2 weeks, you know, we may go into an emergency and they say, look, it's gonna be 6 weeks. You look at the death toll in Italy, that's nothing to play with, bro. That could be right here at Holden Beach. You understand? It's time now before it gets there. Be proactive. You understand? Forget about the damn dollars for a few minutes. Think about the health. You understand? That's my words.
Mr. Murdoch?
Mr. Murdoch?
This is not a position I ever wanted to be put in.
Nobody does.
I'm not ready to make any kind of decision. I think this is a monster call. I understand it's a public health crisis, but if you're gonna stay on the island when you shut that bridge, Gerald, I'm with you. If you're gonna leave and go to the grocery store, what's the point? They all gonna get up and go across it. We can't survive over here
Listen,
with what we have.
you'll
over here.
have 48 hours if it turns out to be a 2-week deal to start with. You'll have 48 hours for the renters to leave and for you to go get your supplies that you'll need. Okay? Give it a little time, because you can't just go, hey, you got to leave right now. There's got to be a time span there. Give them X amount of time to leave. Okay? And, you know, because I'm here, I'm saying what the bulk of my neighbors are telling me. Okay? You know, I go to church with these folks. I look down there all older, I'm about the youngest one in the damn church. I'm 61 years old. Okay? You know?
But
You gotta look at those kind of things.
But Gerald, hasn't most of the feedback been limited to property owners?
Limit it to property owners only. That's what everybody, you know, the vast majority of the emails, and it didn't stop last night. I hear Tim over here, shut it down for 2 weeks. It's not gonna be the end of the world.
Hang on, say that again.
You're not saying if we leave the island, we cannot come back, are you?
Property owners.
What I'm saying with the property owners, they need to be smart. They've got enough time here. You give them enough time. If you need to stock up just a little bit there, more than likely, everybody's in good shape already. You understand? All right, go ahead.
Gerald, I am in South Carolina with a brother dying of cancer.
I understand.
You're telling me if I leave the island, you're not going to let me back when the time comes that
Pat, what I'm saying is for the sake of the island, use a little common sense. If you have to go, fine, but don't go bebopping to the grocery store every day. We're not in France right now, we at Holden Beach.
We are allowed to come back. If
Yes,
we are gonna be responsible, it will be just like after a hurricane when the island.
very same thing, have your sticker, have your Brunswick electric bill paid, have some form of identification,
Correct, okay.
okay?
I'd like to interject that there is an emergency conference with Brunswick County scheduled for 11 o'clock, and I'd like to offer up a suggestion that perhaps that we do it here, and listen in on it. I hadn't run that by you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the mayor and I need to take the call away, or you can take a recess for us to take the call. It's, what would the board like to do? You got.
Can we
you
take
got-
the call
you
right
got-
here so
you-
everybody can hear?
Okay, let me remind the town manager, with all due respect, the call before last, they had to stop the call because of people in the background noise and other issues. There's so many people on the line and have access to breaking in, and they stopped the call until they got
That's
people
right.
to hang up.
Yeah.
How long's the call?
Usually
This-
about
this
30
call
minutes.
Normally lasts 30 to 40 minutes.
We'll have to take a recess.
That's what I would suggest, take a
Okay.
recess, because a lot of the officials, I mean, there are some sensitive things discussed there from time to time. And the more people that hear it and may misinterpret what's being said, that creates rumors, which is another issue.
Okay.
So
that,
I move we go into recess till the meeting.
Second the
is-
motion.
What time frame, sorry, what did you say?
That we go into recess until such time as the town manager and the mayor can resume
I need a date, time certain.
a date and time, sir, until 11:30.
Why not do it at 4 when you've got a scheduled meeting anyway?
Because quite honestly, if we can make at least the Board of Commissioners can make a decision before 4 o'clock, I prefer to go and make it now instead of waiting till 4 o'clock.
And,
Sorry,
want to make the decision before you get a report on,
No, I want to hear back from Brunswick County.
I'll just reiterate what I said before. We have a lot to you've raised innumerable points that we need to discuss and evaluate. So if we wait till 4 o'clock to start doing that, we're never gonna come up with a decision before the end of this business day. At least if we sit here and discuss the issues, we can iron some of those out. We won't need, you understand what I'm saying? And then, if it takes till 4 o'clock after that call, then we can make a decision then, but we don't have to start the whole process
we
at that
might
time.
still be talking up until 4 o'clock.
We might do it.
It's possible.
That's why we needed to start
And
earlier.
I'll amend the motion to recess till 12 o'clock, this way we know that the meeting will be over.
Do what?
The recess of the current till 12 o'clock, this way we know that they'll
I
have
thought
time.
you said 4.
All right, we have a motion to recess.
And a second.
Motion and second discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that-
Recess, back. Call the meeting back to order. Somebody refresh my memory where we are, other than we recessed and now we reconvened. So, I guess I owe a report from the phone call.
Yes.
The phone call was the shortest one of those calls we've ever had. Nothing overwhelmingly new came out of it. Just some updates on the count from state to state and the nation and so forth. And of course, I'm sure everybody in the room is aware that there are 7 in Brunswick County now. The town of Ocean Isle Beach has declared an emergency. And other than that, just the normal stuff that you hear on the news. The governor is, as I understand it, is going to have a press conference at 1, and then possibly an emergency call to the emergency people in the state at 2:30. And then, of course, we got our meeting scheduled for 4. So as we conclude or possibly conclude our meeting here that we have extended and now begun again here at 12, information that is gathered from what we're going to discuss here in a minute, and then what the governor may say at 1 and may talk about in the phone call at 2:30. We'll take all that into consideration, reconvene at our special call meeting at 4. And as your emergency director, I will promise all of you right now before discussion continues again, that this afternoon we will do something. And that something will be determined from the input that we gather between now and the 4 o'clock meeting. Right now, I understand and am asking you, and Pat, are you still on the phone?
Yes, I am.
It is my clear understanding that all 5 commissioners are urging me to declare an emergency. Is that understanding indeed correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Pat, I know you can't vote at this, but you're in agreement with the concept. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. So with that being said, and with the permission and approval of the town council, though your permission is not officially required, but in your guidance, do you see any reason why we shouldn't continue along that premise?
So, I think that I need to sort of give a broad overview of a
I would
couple things.
appreciate that very much.
So, whether or not you declare a state of emergency, you have the ability to restrict, how your employees' hours are, where they work, how they work, their ability to work remotely. I know Mr. Evans had some concerns about whether or not what he's doing is necessary with the current state of coronavirus. And so there are options for you, if you declare a state of emergency. There are also options if you do not, to restrict government facilities and how your employees are not congregating, coming to work, and providing what would be considered non-essential services. So I don't want anyone to think that your hands are tied if you don't declare a state of emergency. Obviously, if you do declare a state of emergency, it opens up additional powers and regulations for the public health. And many towns have done that. So obviously that's a decision that you want to make based on the health information that your health directors are giving you versus what everyone else is doing. We want to assess Holden Beach on its own and sort of make a determination about what threat there is to Holden Beach in its own entity. And then sort of tailor your response to that threat and how serious you've assessed that threat. To my knowledge, there aren't any confirmed cases of coronavirus on Holden Beach. Am I correct?
Thank
Yeah.
God.
Okay, so, you know, maybe some measures that are being taken in other places are not reasonably necessary at this time. Maybe they are. That's a decision that the board can weigh in on and the mayor can decide on. But I would say the first step is going to be to decide what level of tolerance are you at with the threat to Holden Beach as a town. And then if you need to declare a state of emergency or you feel like you need those additional powers in order to address the threat, then you would need to go ahead and do that, and that would open certain powers and regulations that wouldn't otherwise be available. So the other thing that I would say is the concern from what I'm hearing from the commissioner's comments and from public comments is obviously to try to prevent coronavirus from coming on the beach. I'm not sure that that's a realistic goal. I think it's probably gonna spread. I think the best that we could do is maybe slow the spread, which is, I think the guidance that's been given is to try to flatten that peak and the exponential spread of it so that the medical facilities can properly address the people that need medical attention and keep the supplies that they need and all that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, I think certain measures that will limit the gathering of a lot of people that seem to be happening in your nearby towns and stuff, like closing the beaches, closing your public parking facilities, restricting businesses to delivery or drive-through type of services, restaurants and that kind of thing, would deter your typical non-resident tourist travel to the area, particularly closing the beaches. I would say that if you close the beaches because of a public health crisis, the beaches are closed. They're not closed to certain people and not other people. I think that would likely be an unconstitutional distinction to make. If you were gonna close it for health reasons, then everyone needs to be equally protected for health reasons. And so that's certainly an option that would, I think, limit your non-resident tourist traffic, which seems to be a large concern. Also, the parking facilities would minimize that. Restricting restaurants where people can't congregate is also a way to restrict that. As far as closing the bridge goes, to me, I haven't heard a reason to do that would override what both your town manager and your police chief are sort of telling you is logistically very challenging. And I also sort of wonder how in practice that would happen. It seems to me that your police force is particularly small because of the size of the town. And when you put them in the position of regulating every single car and truck that tries to come in and out of Holden Beach, you're subjecting your police force to additional exposure. And so maybe that's a concern that we need to think about and consider, because they would be in contact with hundreds of people every day, all the time. And if your police force gets quarantined, that's obviously a serious concern.
I appreciate your thoughts on that subject, but legally, is there anything to prevent us from closing the bridge if we decided to do that?
So I think under a state of emergency, you probably could close the bridge.
I'm not
Because it's a state
necess-
highway, I would at least reach out to DOT and see if the state was supportive of it, not supportive of it, or if they had any ideas or suggestions how to make that a realistic
I
possibility.
wasn't necessarily advocating that's what we do by asking my question, but as I've mentioned before, I appreciate your legal thoughts. So I wanna know
Right.
what's legal and not legal.
Under a state of emergency, I don't think you would be prevented from closing the bridge. I think that would be possible to do that, and would be in your authority to do that. Yeah, again, I think the first step is gonna be to decide whether or not a state of emergency is what the mayor wants to do. And then from there, we can sort of tailor some additional responses based on what the power is under
Okay.
a state of emergency.
Okay.
Comments from commissioners? Questions? Staff, do you have any questions?
I just encourage everybody to look at the Ocean Isle resolution that is now posted. It might give it gives some good ways of describing things.
Just getting ready to say before you moved on, I've seen some of the Ocean Isle stuff, haven't seen it all, I just got a link from the news. But it looks like what they've done as a first step is reasonable. And I would be in favor of taking that approach, if you're asking me my opinion.
Of course, there are other entities that have done similar, or made similar decisions and so reflective in their paperwork. And, I'd like to consider all of that, not just Ocean Isle.
I think I sent everybody this morning, there was a coastal resource sort of overview that I don't know if it was totally up to date, but it was trying to outline what different counties and places in North Carolina had done. Again, I'm not sure it's
Yeah, some of the South Carolina beaches have some interesting concepts as well. So, any more staff?
Yeah, I just got a full 3 pages, come right straight out of Office of State Fire Marshal on directions for how inspectors are supposed to handle this situation. I'm assuming it's being catalyzed by what probably is coming later on today, but I got 3 pages here. Me and David probably need to go over it, but it's some pretty specific stuff about how we can do these inspections and that kind of stuff. They're giving us all kinds of stuff, so anything. But there is some changes, we'll post them on the site about how.
Thank you.
Any other staff member? Okay, I think where I am personally is, hearing the wishes of the commissioners and listening to the legal suggestions and guidelines offered, staff and everyone in the room and elsewhere that have had their input. I think as your emergency director, I'm ready to call for the emergency status and all the verbiage that goes along with that and putting that into effect immediately. However, the particulars that would follow that in accordance with our town organizational papers and other parts of our government that dictate the way things that are done, I would not like to go beyond other than declaring a status of emergency at this time. Gather the information from the 1 o'clock press conference, the 2:30 phone call, and other sources that may appear to give us input. Give us time to look at the documents from other places, and when we reconvene, or when we come to the 4 o'clock meeting, we can hash through all of that, give all of that consideration, and before the end of the day, not necessarily at 4 o'clock, it might be 5 o'clock, 5:30, because we don't know what's coming. But right now, my intent is to follow through beyond just the declaration of emergency. And before the end of the day, we'll hang some of the specifics following the declaration. But I am asking and directing a declaration of emergency be immediately put in place. Madam Attorney, is there anything that you would like to suggest to me or to clarify to the staff, audience, and commissioners beyond that?
No, I don't think so. After we hear, some more from the 1 o'clock and 2:30 informational, presentations, we should be able to put together some proposed, steps for you and the board to consider.
Commissioners, any comments or questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna ask for a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's unanimous that we adjourn this meeting. We will come together at 4 o'clock this afternoon for the 4 o'clock called meeting. We're adjourned.